Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the TripleJump podcast. It's a video game podcast. My name is Ben.
My name is Peter.
And my name is Ashton.
Good morning, everyone.
Hello.
Good morning, Ben.
Filled with smiles and happy feelings because the summer is finally here and isn't an oppressive, insufferable, inescapable night.
I am actually happy that
Summertime.
Happiness. I'm actually really happy that it's sunny in the summer.
I'm enjoying it.
But it is causing other issues, isn't it?
Yeah.
Like no sleep.
Like no sleep.
Yeah.
But only because I've still got my winter duvet on.
Oh, well, that's.
Oh, I
that's
don't
on
have
you.
a different duvet.
I don't have. Well, we got a king size bed in the winter, and my boyfriend decided to get like a 15 tog duvet. So it's
Wow.
like
What
basically
does that
sleeping
mean?
under a mattress.
Is that like a big
so
mattress?
thick?
Okay.
And now we're like, oh man, we need another duvet to sleep under because now it's too hot. But can't be asked. So I've just been sleeping under a bed sheet.
Well, we've been sleeping
Yeah.
under a.
That is a tactic.
We don't have a. All of our bed sheets are fitted, and it's like, well, I don't want to go under a bed sheet that's got like springy corners, so we don't have like.
Oh
a,
no, like I think she means a duvet cover.
Duvet cover.
Well,
sorry.
no, but that's what we've done instead. Is normally
Do you
in the
think I
summer.
was sleeping under a mattress cover?
A fitted sheet.
Is that what you thought I meant?
So
Ben has to tuck her in the corners.
no, I'm saying not that, but like I used to sometimes in the summer I would sleep under a non-fitted sheet, you know, like just a big traditional square sheet.
Yeah, that's
Right,
the
yeah.
worst.
You would
I
have
hate
like you would
those.
put a sheet on the bed and then you'd get another one and you would sleep under that, which is basically the same as sleeping under a duvet cover.
Yeah.
But in our house, we only have fitted sheets that have the springy corners.
Yeah.
You can't really sleep under that because that's kind of weird to have the springs. So yeah, we're sleeping under a duvet cover,
Yeah.
which is what you're doing.
It's too hot, basically.
Yeah.
That's what we say. It's too hot, but thankfully the video games have come through with Summer Game Fest week. Obviously, we talked about Summer Game Fest last week, the actual show. But since then, there have been a number of shows that we're going to break down and talk about at the end in the big discussion. But before we get
Spoilers.
there... Yeah, big spoiler. You didn't see it in the title or the thumbnail. But before we get there, we need to talk about the sponsor of this week's show, which helps us keep all the lights on here, including feeding
Oh, I know where he is.
Dead Island 2 the
He
Spider.
appeared during my stream. He crawled over the wall towards the streaming setup.
Yeah.
And then crawled up the back of the computer and then disappeared. But he was freaking me out. He's lucky that he's one of those spindly guys, because if he was one of those big, hairy, like, buggers, I would have screamed and left the room. But I just was like, oh my God, Dead Island 2. And he was just crawling his way along the...
Does
so
it
he's in
help
the
that we've
streaming
named
setup.
him, do you think? Does it make him slightly less scary?
Well, yeah. But so he migrated from my bathroom into the streaming
MB.
setup. Yeah, MB, my bathroom.
That's good. I'm glad
Yeah.
that we know where Dead Island 2 the Spider is.
Yeah.
Where was it? Recently, someone told us, maybe it was through a stream donation or in the stream chat, that they have now taken to naming every spider they see Dead Island, and then an extra number, the spider. So they're up to
Oh, I
like
didn't
Dead
see
Island
that.
8
Maybe
the
it was on
spider.
your
your
stream.
stream.
Maybe it was in my stream this week. I think that's great. There's
That is great.
so many Dead Island spiders out there now, which is quite beautiful in a way. Ashton, I believe you have the very real ad read
I do.
in front of you.
As you may know, June is Pride Month.
Pride Month.
Yes.
It is. Happy
Happy Pride
Pride,
Month.
everyone.
Happy Pride.
And so games that are coming out this month, they kind of trying to lean into this month, you know, like a bit of rainbow capitalism,
Sure.
a little bit of like smack a rainbow on it and it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Well, a game's coming out today at time of recording that was kind of just recently announced last week that it was coming out today. It's a horror game by Bloober Team. You may know them. You know them?
Okay, I've got it.
Yeah.
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 And it's like I think it's a remaster. There's a whole bunch of games you can get. Anyway, it doesn't matter. And so in order to kind of like, you know, sell their game to the gays, they've decided to give it a temporary rebrand for this month as it comes out. So they have named it Layers of Queer.
Yeah, okay.
Layers of Queer.
Excellent. Can you tell us a bit about the? Have
Yeah.
they changed any of the content?
So
What's
instead
happening?
of the monster like being a monsty, it doesn't have like kind of a black shadow. It's like a rainbow shadow.
Oh.
And instead of like screaming at you, it just says like it's got like a soundboard of queer phrases.
Okay.
You know, your
Can you
Yas
give-
Queens.
Right, there's one.
Your Slay.
Yeah, that's another.
Your oh that kind of
I bet.
thing.
What was that?
Yeah.
The
That
bird
one.
noise.
The bird
Yeah.
noise.
What's
Peter
that
knows
one?
it.
I don't know that one.
No, yeah, exactly. It's important.
Well, this is why I should play the
Yeah,
game.
exactly.
What about my new least favorite phrase in that sort of world, perhaps of all time?
It's giving.
No.
Oh, you
What's
hated that
that?
one the other week.
There's a worse
God.
one. It's serving C words.
Oh, yeah.
But you
Huh?
say the C word.
Yeah.
If someone's doing like a great job, or they're absolutely like they're slaying or like stunting on these hoes, etc.
Yeah.
You can say that they're serving
C
C
word.
word.
flip. Yeah.
Right.
But just I don't know. It's just quite kind of aggressive.
That's a lot, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's normally aimed at drag queens because, like, if
Yeah.
they're looking like a woman,
Right.
you may be able to put two and two together there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, what a world.
Yeah. Find it a bit much, that one.
But don't worry about it because it's not real.
Oh, thank God.
So,
None of those phrases were real. We're
well,
safe.
they are.
Yeah.
The,
They're
not
phrases, the
safe.
phrases are real,
Oh,
but
okay.
the ghost in Layers of Fear is not going to.
Ghost inside
Yeah.
my fear.
Be a rainbow
Yeah.
ghost.
But
Wow.
Layers of Fear is coming out today. They announced that last week, and then it's just coming out. Apparently at 4 p.m.
It's
today.
coming out of the closet.
Yes, it's giving. Anyway, no, not sponsored by them, are we, Ben? We're sponsored by our very real patrons over at patreon.com/Team Triple Jump.
Where for as little as what, Peter?
$1 per month.
Yes, you can submit questions to this podcast and slay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
You can serve
You can
questions.
serve questions.
serve questions to us. Learning a lot today. It started as sort of, this is the way I feel like it's probably gone for time immemorial, but it sort of starts as an ironic, like, oh, what are they talking about? And then it gets to the stage where you're like, oh my God, I am actually just really old, aren't I?
Yeah.
I just don't understand anymore. This is so new. And apparently this is so established among so many people and I've never heard of it before.
Yeah.
So old. No, our wonderful patrons. Thank you so much to our patrons over there. We've got loads of other tiers available as well, including Worst Games Ever, 2 days early. However, it will be 3 days early next episode if you sign up due to a slight administrative error on our part recently.
I'm the administrator.
And weirdest games ever an entire week before everybody else, as well as some physical rewards as well, t-shirts and other
After Dark
exclusive
podcast
merch
as well.
pack. After Dark podcast, which I believe is coming up on episode 50 soon, which is very exciting, where we talk about pretty much anything you guys want us to talk about that isn't video games. So it's a good one. You should check it out. Patreon.com/Team Triple Jump. Just like
Bartek Kubica, who says, "Oh my God, BAP! Embracer Group announces restructuring program that will result in layoffs, studio closures, divestments, and game project cancellations/suspensions. Are you surprised? Taken
No.
aback?
No.
Astonished? You always warned against the greed of corporations, and when the first mention of purchases of this company appeared, you mentioned such a risk. Take care. Not surprised. Bartolomeo."
Thank you, Bartek.
Thank you, Bartek.
Have you got a little write-up there, Peter? Because I got a little write-up here.
I haven't actually. I mean, a lot of it was in the question, but maybe we should do more context.
I can give a little more context.
Sure.
So this, I believe, was from early this week, maybe end of last week. This is a write-up from Eurogamer and Tom Phillips. Embracer has announced a comprehensive restructuring program which will result in studio closures, project cancellations, and job losses. The Swedish umbrella company has grown enormously through acquisitions over the past 5 years and now owns a swathe of studios such as Tomb Raider developer Crystal Dynamics, Borderlands maker Gearbox, rights to franchises such as The Lord of the Rings, and an array of other publishers such as PlayOn, Saber, and THQ Nordic. But while amassing its empire, Embracer is yet to see a big return. Last year's big bet, its Saints Row reboot, was a critical and commercial failure, but Ashton Matthews loved it.
I did love that game.
More recently, I also enjoyed it. More recently, the company suffered a body blow when a major
Oh, I hit my funny bone.
you okay?
Yeah.
When a major unannounced $2 billion deal fell through, prompting its shares to plummet by an eye-watering 40%. Today's reckoning seeks to make Embracer a leaner, stronger, and a more focused, self-sufficient company. The company's boss, Lars Wingefors, potentially, wrote in an open letter published this morning. The first phase of this plan, which will last until March 2024, targets cost saving across the group and will mean Embracer's, are you ready for this, 17,000 employee headcount will be cut.
Oh, that's a lot of employees.
By how much and on which projects and what studios? It is too early to give an exact forecast on this, Vingefora wrote. However, Tomb Raider studio Crystal Dynamics has said it is safe. In a statement released via Twitter, it said there will be no impact to our continuing efforts with our partners at the Initiative on Perfect Dark or our next next Tomb Raider title being developed in collaboration with Amazon Games.
Not Amazon Games.
What a flipping surprise. We have been covering what was initially the rapid expansion of THQ Nordic.
Yeah.
It felt like for ages, and then there have been various companies involved that have come and gone. It may have always been known as the Embracer Group, but I feel like it was always THQ Nordic is what we talked about at the beginning of TripleJump. What do you think about this, Peter?
I think it's pretty clear that if you are an umbrella corporation in the world of video games, it always goes wrong in the end.
Sick one.
Am I right?
Sick one, Peter.
Thanks for that. It's a Resident Evil reference.
Slay.
She missed that. Slay.
It's giving.
It is giving something.
What is it? We'll find out. I don't know.
I think like whenever we cover the sort of the business and finance side of the video games world, we always sort of like have the little caveat of like, this is what it looks like to us, the laymen or women or other, but we always, we say like, but maybe we don't really understand what's going on in there, and maybe like this is a calculated thing. So as much as we have always said like, this seems insane that they're just buying all of this stuff and doing nothing with it. Can this be allowed, and can this be a wise business decision? There's always been a bit of me that's thought like, yeah, but they must know that like what they're doing is probably okay.
They must have some kind of business plan.
It's all calculated. It's all, they know where this is going. Evidently not. They've just like bought loads of stuff, and yet for the most part not used a great deal of it to actually make any of their money back.
What have they actually released?
I was about to say that exact
We've had
same thing.
flipping
Gollum?
Was Gollum them, or was that Warner
Well,
Brothers?
they own Lord of the Rings.
They do
so
own
I would
they bought the rights owners for Lord of the Rings.
So I would
think.
assume it's them.
Or at least they've got some kind of licensing.
Got a financial
money
stake
coming
in it.
from, yeah.
The remakes of Destroy All Humans, which we covered on here and weren't that fussed by.
Did they own Gearbox when they released Tiny Tina?
Good question.
I didn't even know they owned Gearbox.
Yeah, they bought Gearbox published. They bought the whole thing.
Yeah.
They bought the whole thing because they can.
Because we were literally saying this week, I was like, we've not heard from Gearbox in a while. What have they been up to?
Yeah.
And they've
That
been
movie,
under Embracer
that
Group.
Borderlands movie.
Yeah,
Well,
was-
and has there been a Tomb Raider release under their, like, not on their watch? No, there hasn't.
Not yet. No,
It's in
I don't think
development, but-
I don't think that Crystal Dynamics have done anything since then. They released a remake of a SpongeBob game.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
released a brand new SpongeBob game this year, and like that's kind of it. They've got 17,000 employees.
Yeah.
What are they doing? And what was ever the plan? Just to own loads of stuff, because it's only recently that they've bought big developers and publishers. To start with, they were buying up all these like little studios.
Yeah.
And those little studios may well have released games in this time.
Yeah.
Citation needed. But as they have gone on to clarify in other statements, I think they said they need to exploit the Lord of the Rings license as much as possible, which obviously is a poor choice of words, but makes sense. Like, they got the Lord of the Rings license. They want to pump out Lord of the Rings games. So they're going to prioritize those over whatever small studio is making somewhere else.
And there's that Moria one coming, isn't there, that we saw a trailer
Yeah,
for?
the dwarf
Dwarves.
one.
Don't
It's
know what
just-
it's called, but yeah.
It was so predictable.
Yeah, it seems like basic business sense that, like, putting aside the idea of kind of mega corporations or competition, if we just sort of table that, like, basically, I don't mind if someone wants to buy loads and loads of stuff, provided that they then actually do something with it to make that money back. But it kind of bothers me, the thought that, like, someone has just spent loads and loads of cash to say, I now own all of this,
I own
and then they've
Atari.
suddenly gone, oh, hang on, but I've spent. I missed that. What did
I
you
said,
say?
I own Atari.
Yes, I own Atari, indeed. But then to suddenly go, oh, wait, that money that I spent buying Atari, because I'm Soldier Boy, I need to make it back somehow.
Yeah.
But now we don't have anything. Well, we do have some games in the works, but they've not made enough in the last sort of, well, I don't know how long
5
they've
years,
been. Yeah, exactly. To recoup their
Feels like a
costs.
scam, doesn't
It
it?
does.
Feel like a
It
scam.
feels like-
What was, because they were waiting on a $2 billion investment. It was like, well,
From who?
why would you need that when
Yeah.
you've bought all these things that should be generating money for you?
Yeah.
What are you doing to need $2 billion of
It's
investment?
like money laundering.
What was
Yeah, it is a
I mean,
bit, yeah.
weird. This is pure conjecture. We're not suggesting it is for legal
No,
for
it's
legal
not.
reasons. We're not saying that it is this, but it, like, as uneducated in the ways of business that we are, this seems nuts. That, like, they just bought all this stuff and were like, well, guess we're gonna have to sell some of it. It's like, well, or close some of it. Why did you buy it in the first place?
Embracer Group gives me the same vibes as like all those American sweet shops you see in
That's just what I was going to say. Yeah,
Right, it's a front for
it's
drugs.
a front for drugs.
yeah. It's like when the mob buy like 4 laundrettes on the same
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it does feel so strange having like seen this long list of studios that are owned by Embracer Group and having absolutely no idea what the hell they're doing. Like just completely.
We should have looked it up really, but there was always that quote going around, wasn't there? From it, so I'm so far away from my microphone. Going around from Embracer, like we've got 10 billion games in development. Like there was some ridiculous number of
they
games
did have
said
like
in
a lot of
development.
games.
It's like we have not seen.
Or maybe we have,
Any of them.
but we just don't know that they're
It's 'cause they own
under.
everything.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
they could just have a hand. As far as we're aware, it's been SpongeBob and
Gollum.
Destroy All Humans and maybe a bit of Gollum.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah,
It's nuts.
But the thing about it as well is that a lot of the studios under Embracer Group, they have, there's games that are being passed around because I'm pretty sure the KOTOR remake was being worked on by one of Embracer Group studios.
Is it Aspire?
Could well have
It was
been.
Aspire, but I'm pretty sure they're Embracer Group. They were originally working on it. They were a port studio, and that's now got passed on to a different port studio. So one would assume that they're owned by a bigger company that's gone, hey, give it to someone else because you're not working on it quick enough. But I worked for one of these studios that were like, oh, good news, everyone. We've been bought by Embracer Group. They're going to like help us out with this one. And then suddenly like 2 years down the line, my whole studio is getting closed down. Even though before this, maybe we were like doing well and we didn't necessarily need this, but it felt like a good boost in funding and everything. I just think it's such a shame that these jobs and these studios are going to disappear potentially. I mean, I already feel like they were kind of all right under the Embracer Group umbrella because most people didn't know if they were or were not owned by Embracer Group, the general public. Like, I didn't know every studio is owned by Embracer Group. I couldn't see one and be like, oh, that's an Embracer Group studio. But now we're going to see a lot of these smaller studios that potentially could have gone on to continue making good/decent games, and they're going to get shut down by Embracer Group or they're going to get de-invested in because they just have overstretched with what they're doing.
This is the thing. Like it can almost be a funny situation in the sense of like, what are you doing? What is going on in there?
Yeah.
Aurora Borealis in the kitchen.
Exactly.
But the moment that you actually stop and think, well, no, like their solution to this isn't simply to be like, oh, well, some of these that we bought, we're going to actually just sell on to someone else and they will continue to exist elsewhere. That's not. I mean, it sounds like they're going to sell some stuff, but also some things they're keeping technically, and they're just closing it or laying people off, and that's where it's actually kind of, well, not sinister because that implies that they did it on purpose, but it's a real shame, and it's
that's where the Winkler got involved and it's gone evil.
Yes. We at this point we don't know what their plan is. As he said, it's too early to say at the moment. And they could go about it in a really humane way, and they tell everyone ages ahead of time, and they give everyone big redundancy packages, or they find a way to keep everybody. They get another investor. It could all work out. The fact that they're in this position at all, though, is the real story. That, like, yeah, of course they are. Like, there was no other way that this seemingly could have gone. It just doesn't make any sense. This company comes out of almost nowhere and buys everything, and then has to close stuff. Like, I've tried to Google some of the games that Embracer has released, and I
also was trying to do that while you were
cannot find
talking.
a definitive list. All I can find is a list of the franchises they currently own.
Yeah.
I did find a few headlines though. In February of this year, according to VentureBeat, Embracer Group plans to release 94 games in upcoming years. In November of last year, from Push Square, Embracer Group has 234 games planned to launch by March 2026. February of this year, Games Hub Embracer Group currently has 200 plus games in development, but we don't know what they are.
No.
And some of these now may never see the light of day because they're going to prioritize Lord of the Rings, and they're going to shutter some of these studios.
They also own a bunch of Square Enix Western studios.
Well, yeah,
They
they
do,
Square
yes.
sold off a load of their stuff.
Yeah, and
didn't
they gave it to Embracer Group. They
Crystal
do own a
Dynamics.
lot. Like this list of like the things of like what they owned first and now what they own. Like obviously they own Koch. They own the people that did Goat Sim. They own people that did Little Nightmares. They own people that did Metro and Insurgency. They own Gearbox. They own Aspire. I was right with saying they owned
So
Aspire.
Goat Sim is one they brought out.
Yeah, they
Or is-
own.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
it
that
out
was
yet?
it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, maybe. Yeah, they own Asmodee. They own so much, man. Like when you look at this list, it just keeps going, and then they're like, also Crystal Dynamics and also Tripwire. Wow, that is a lot.
Yeah, it's terrible, and our hearts go out to people who may or may not be affected. I don't know if any news has been passed on to any of the studios yet, but I imagine there's a lot of uncertainty and stress at the moment at a lot of those studios. So we hope you're all doing okay. And it's horrible to see, but I just don't understand how is this allowed, and how could this have been avoided?
Yeah,
because what are they doing? What are they doing over there? Well, we will keep you posted on that. And of course, just very quickly at the end here, there is another development on the Activision Blizzard acquisition. We're not going to go into too much detail here, but I believe I can't remember which agency in the US now has sought to block that or file some sort of legal block thing. I don't have a story in front of me and I can't remember the specifics, but we are not done hearing about this just yet.
No.
We don't know what the appeal went like in the UK at the moment, but we do know that they're facing more opposition in the US now. So we will see. We'll probably have more about that next week. It's time now, though, for something brand new.
Yeah, because we haven't got to speak about Xbox, we figured maybe we should put something in to fill it, because every week we have to talk about them, and this week we're not. So what do we fill it with? A new segment, of course. Finally, we've got time to talk about it. Yeah. It's time for a segment called What We Playin.
Okay.
Oh, slay.
What we slay in time. It's time to talk about what we slay in. Peter Austin, what have you been slaying?
What have you been slaying?
I have played a single game this week. I have managed to play a couple of hours of Star Wars Jedi Survivor. It still judders when it does the company logos at the beginning, which is so very odd. And I have had one crash since last time, but it seems either I was very unlucky with my first session to get the two crashes, or it has in some way stabilized, or I don't know why things are a bit better now. But I have basically played through kind of the first chapter or so. I have made it off Coruscant and arrived on what's it called? Kobo, yes. Okay, which I really like. I think I'm really enjoying this game actually. I like the traversal. At the moment, I know I'm obviously up against some early game weak enemies, but there's a slightly more of a sense I feel of like being a bit of a badass Jedi and being able to like cut through a crowd of like weaker people. Whereas my memories, at least, of the first game, even though it's been a little while since I played it, are coming up against individuals and you're armed with a lightsaber, and yet it takes quite a while to take them down. Yeah. And I appreciate that like some of them are whatever they're called, like Inquisitor troopers, like the ones who, not the actual Inquisitors, but the ones with the
purple
shock sticks. Yeah. And that makes sense, I guess, that they've got a weapon that sort of deflects lightsabers and stuff. But even some of the like more standard stormtroopers would take a bit of a beating, and I kind of thought like I don't feel as powerful as I should do. Now I want the challenge, and I don't want to just be running through crowds constantly. But I'd rather have a huge gang of like basic stormtroopers coming at me than like 3 or 4 who are all quite strong. I still want the challenge, but maybe the challenge by many weak people rather than like a couple of strong ones. And you still have that as well. There's like little mini bosses and stuff, so that's all great. But I'm really enjoying it. I was surprised that although I was very well aware of the Cal customization, where you can do your man bun and stuff, I didn't expect the BD1 customization to be like that. Because in the previous game, it was literally just you could change his skin.
Yeah.
But, you can do, is this legs or is that legs? Which legs shall I do? Yeah. And, paint jobs and stuff. So that's all very nice.
I like the way it kind of smacks him when it
and he
sort swap through,
wiggles his new legs. So that was a pleasant surprise. And then I've made it onto the second planet, and I'm having fun interacting with battle droids, which is although they were sort of in the promotional material, I sort of had forgotten that was happening. And then when I landed, I was like, oh, okay, we're with like old separatist tech. So I'm having a good time with it.
What does your Cal look like?
My Cal at the moment, I've barely changed him. I've like got some white, I've got like a white top on. I've not even changed his facial hair.
I thought you were going to shave him back to the baby face Cal you love so
Yeah.
much.
Oh yeah,
immediately.
absolutely, yeah. No, I've not really got into the kind of the details of Cal. I did spend a long time with my lightsaber though, which is which was a lot of fun. But yeah, I guess I was partly waiting until I get more Cal bits before I start messing around with him. But yeah, so that's all I've played. But I've had a great time with it. Ashton.
I've played 2 things this week. I finished Dishonored at the weekend.
Oh, right.
Had a
Did you
lovely
get a good
time.
ending?
Got the good ending.
Nice.
Yeah. I had a great time, and I did go into being like, wow, this final mission's really easy. Like, there's like barely anyone around. There's like no one seems to care that I'm here. And then I was like, I got the good ending. I wonder what happens if you don't get the good ending. And then they were like, yeah, if you get the bad ending, it's all very like there's a lot more people around and a lot more like
There's rats.
hazards, loads of
yeah.
rats. And also, if you get the really bad ending, Samuel will fire a bullet into the sky to let everyone know that you're coming. And I was like, wow, I'm so glad I got the good ending.
Yeah.
I had a great time with that game. It's so funny to see how similar it is to things like Deathloop in the sense that, like, obviously the abilities are very similar, but also some of the like icons are exactly the same as like they are, and that just made me laugh.
Character design and
Yeah,
stuff.
yeah, exactly.
It's a cool style. I like it.
Yeah. And then I also started on Monday Hellblade Senua's Sacrifice. Because obviously last week we saw Hellblade 2, and I was like, man, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to play it. And I've been really enjoying that game. The sound design is incredible. And I completely understand why everyone who plays it is like, this game is amazing. Like it really is good. But I'm so stressed. I feel this level of anxiety that I've not had in a while. Because if you die too many times, that's it. End of the game. Like you just die forever.
Oh wow.
And you have to start again. And when it told me that, I was like, oh no, I can't do this. I can't commit to this because I'm so bad at blocking and parrying. So I can't handle this if you're going to make me fight too many enemies. But to be fair, the only times I feel like I've been cheated a bit is when there's like a lock-on sometimes with enemies. Well, there's always a lock-on. And if there's a few enemies, sometimes it like you don't get to pick who it's targeting. It just starts like going between the 3. And at one point I was just zipping in a circle and she wasn't hitting anyone because she was like, I don't know who you want me to hit. And then I died. But I'm really enjoying it. I think I'm about 3/4 of the way through now. And yeah, it's just so good. I just think it's really brilliant. And all the sound design is great. And all of the voice acting is, I just recommend it to people to play this one. Obviously, it's on like everything now. It's on PlayStation Plus, I think. It's on Xbox Game Pass, and I'm playing it on Steam. But yeah, God, what a good game.
Does it serve up? What's it? What did you call it earlier? What's the phrase?
Serve C.
Not serve C. There was another one. Not slay. Not serve C.
It's giving?
It's giving. It's giving. Does it
Giving.
Is it giving?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Just so I know that I'm using that right.
Also, I've been playing a mobile game that they showed on Wholesome Game
yeah.
Showcase
Okay.
called Campfire Cafe? Campfire Cats? What's it called? Campfire Cat Cafe.
Oh, that does sound
It's
nice.
an idle game, and
Sounds very wholesome games.
it's very nice. Just tapping up my screen, feeding all of the forest animals. It's good.
Are you winning?
I think so.
Cool.
Son, are you winning, Son?
Yes.
Slay.
What have you been playing, Ben?
I've been playing a few things. I have played more Grand Theft Auto San Andreas, and I've been getting increasingly frustrated with the missions as they go on because they very much lean into, now here's 40 enemies and no health. Have fun. And the checkpoints, even though they do let you start from midpoints, they are still dreadful, even though they've added them in. As recently as 2 years ago, I had to do the mission where you escape the military site with the jetpack. And I got the jetpack with almost no health at all. And that is the checkpoint. You then have to fly up, shoot a few people, and then for about an hour, as soon as I poked my head out of the bunker that I was in and had to fly out of the base, I got shot from 4 different directions. And it took me doing it over and over and over and over again until I finally got out. And then I was shot by some auto turret that had a lock-on missile. I was like, that missile's coming really fast this way, huh? And then it killed me and I had to do it all over again, which is especially frustrating as when I was sneaking my way through the base, I turned off the turrets and I was still shot by them.
Great.
I eventually did do it and I'm now back in Los Santos. Grove Street. The whole thing is... No, where is it? The whole thing is Los Santos, isn't it? I'm back in Grove Street, so I think I am near the end of the game. There's like riots going on and stuff.
Right.
The riots don't really look that great. I don't know if they ever did because of the limits of the time, but certainly in this sort of remaster, they're saying, wow, the streets are crazy. And there's just like 3 people walking up the street.
Just punching each other.
Not even that. I've seen like one person throw a punch at another person. It's so tame, and they're acting like it's the craziest.
It's like
thing in the
Cyberpunk.
world. A little
like,
bit, yeah.
Oh, it's crazy here, and then there's just like 2 people.
2 people walking into a wall.
Yeah.
And also his brother, CJ's brother, Sweet, is like super unfair to him. He's not a nice guy. Have either of you played?
Like years ago.
Okay.
I don't even remember.
Well, it's
really.
like CJ got out and he made a success of himself. He's like a property owner. He's got employees. Admittedly, he achieved that through like unthinkable violence.
Yeah.
But his brother's like, how dare you leave this horrible neighborhood, man? And CJ's like, damn, I don't think that's fair, but all right. It's like, this sucks. This guy's not very nice to you.
You need to cut this guy out of your
You
life.
need to cut this guy out of your life. But anyway, you know, I am a white boy in 2023. So maybe if I came from that neighborhood in 1991, I would perhaps relate a bit more. But certainly it seems that these two have a dynamic that isn't very healthy. And I think CJ should just like enjoy the life he's built for himself on all of the bones that he's buried along the way. Apart from that, I've played loads of Diablo 4 and I'm having a great time. I think it's fantastic. The story I have barely touched because I've just been doing loads of side stuff and dungeons and things and getting loads of loot. I think I'm level 30 now. I've got a barbarian. And it's just such a nice little addictive loop of getting the loot, going into town, socketing your gems, unsocketing your gems, crafting new gems, going through this ridiculous skill tree. I've got an ultimate now, which is really fun. So every minute I can press R2, which is where I've mapped it to, and like 3 big ghost warriors come out and smash everything.
Nice.
And it's great. I think it's fantastic. I'll probably pay more attention to what's going on when I actually do more of the story missions. But as it stands, everyone I meet essentially says, someone's gone missing. The demons are here. You need to kill something or get something. And it's just like, yeah, skip. Fine. I'll go kill everything and pick up this item and come back. But I'm still enjoying it. I think it's a very good game to have something on in the background while you're playing. And I'm really, really enjoying that. I've played some of the demo of Lies of P and some of the demo of Final Fantasy 16, which I did on stream. Massively underestimated how long those demos were. I thought, what can they be? 15 minutes? No, they're both 2 hours long. So I played a little bit of Lies of P. It definitely skews more Bloodborne than Dark Souls, which is sort of what I expected. And it feels a little slower in terms of movement speed, but there's a lot of shared DNA, and I really enjoyed it. And I do intend to go back and finish off the demo. One of the highlights from Summer Game Fest for me. And Final Fantasy 16, I watched a lot of cutscene, and then I walked down a hill. The thing that did stick out to me in my very short time with the demo, again, that I will go back to and finish off, is that this is an adult game. They have done away with sort of like the puppy dog, puppy love cringe love fests. In the opening 10 minutes, someone jumps into someone else's arm, like straddles them, and then there's like some really sexually suggestive language, exchanged between the two of them.
Right.
They swear at like big swears. There's blood.
Well, it is in English. They're all English.
Well,
So if they didn't
English
swear, it would be
now.
like, it's not even accurate.
It just shows like a real. I've such a welcome change, because one of the things I always loved about Final Fantasy VII is that while there wasn't swearing, there was implied swearing because it's censored, like in the text, and there was blood. Like it was a violent and dark game, and I feel like it's, as much as I like Final Fantasy, it's been kind of light for a long time, and this feels like a real grown-up Final Fantasy game. I haven't actually played any of it yet because I didn't get very far in the demo. So I don't know if it's any good. I assume it is, but certainly in terms of its tone, I'm all for it.
Good.
I think that's great. I'm excited, and that's what I've been playing.
Nice. Time for question 2 now. Comes from Dan. Hello, Bap. First time Patreoning and therefore first time question asker. You put answer, but that's all right. In an interview, Matt Booty said, gamers and the game industry need to realise that development cycles can take up to 6 years. Do you think the game studio should also look to make A or AA games rather than their options being AAA titles or indie games? Perhaps around the £20 to £40 mark, with AAA games releases now being £70 plus. Thanks, tired author Dan.
Thanks, Dan, for supporting us.
I have a quote from Matt Booty.
Amazing.
From Axios, which is a blog that he did the chat with.
Yeah.
Matt Booty, Xbox Game Studios chief with a fantastic name.
Yes, Mr. Booty.
Said, I think that the industry and the fans were a little behind the curve on sort of a reset to understand that games aren't 2 or 3 years anymore. They're 4 and 5 and 6. The broader context for his comments with the slowdown of releases that many of Xbox's studios, including some fallow periods in recent years and belated game reveals from teams and the company purchased 5 years ago. There are higher expectations. The levels of fidelity that we're able to deliver just goes up. Games continue to get more ambitious as an art form. Is essentially that's what he said. So yeah, he's saying that we need to be patient because games take longer now than they used to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think, Peter?
Well, I saw a really it wasn't really silly take on this, but I think it was sillier than they realized they were being, where someone said like, it was just someone on Twitter saying like, oh, this is terrible, that it's going to be, years between games that we're going to get. And it's like, well, it is in terms of sequential games in a series, you'll have to wait if this is true, which is sort of, I would be inclined to agree with it. You're going to have to wait 3 or 4 years for a sequel, perhaps. But it doesn't mean that we're getting fewer games now, because if game studios as a collective are starting work on a new game every 3 months or whatever, a game that you would be interested in, then down the line they're going to be delivered 3 months apart. I mean, obviously hypothetically, we're talking just on paper here. So it doesn't necessarily mean you're getting fewer games across the industry, provided that studios are continuing to start individual projects more. It's just that between games in a series, the gap has increased. But I mean, I would be more inclined to, as Dan suggests, I would prefer to see things pared back slightly. I think that some massive AAA blockbusters should continue to exist. They have to exist, and they can be the ones that sell consoles, really, or particularly allow people to choose which console they want to go down, although some people would disagree that that is the way that it goes. But I personally think that games can be too big nowadays, and I think you could kill 2 birds with 1 stone by saying, hey, this open world game, we're not going to make, for example, 1,000 planets, or we're not going to make a map that is hundreds of square miles. We're going to make it a bit smaller, not put so many items and side quests in it, and then I presume that would in some way reduce the development time that it would take. Now, I guess you still have all the kind of the stuff under the hood, the kind of technical aspect, and maybe that takes a huge proportion of this time either way, and so the size of the map is ultimately semi-inconsequential. We're not game developers. It's very difficult for us to say that what things could or could not be changed in order to reduce this time, and which of those things that we would like to see.
I think it's just a dial.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like a big dial to turn it down.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple, actually,
Exactly.
devs.
But personally, I would quite happily see perhaps a few more games in the sort of AA size and scale that we're used to, even if they were coming from big studios and big series. You look at something like Spider-Man Miles Morales. That was a really good game. It came out quicker than you would expect a true sequel to, as we can see by the actual Spider-Man sequel. And I really enjoyed it. I guess that very much helped that they literally were able to just sort of copy and paste the game world. They did a lot to change it still, but I imagine that helps them with their game world development. But that aside, I think we can see that, even like something like Uncharted Lost Legacy, I don't think was in like development for as long as Uncharted 4, for example. I think it is a nice thing to see, and it can even just sort of supplement a series while you are waiting for perhaps the true AAA sequel. If they're able to also kind of work in parallel and produce a kind of a 0.5 sequel to keep people satiated, I think that's a really good thing to do, and potentially would also allow them to lower the price point slightly if development costs are reduced.
I find myself just as excited now about smaller AA games and indie titles as I do about the big AAAs that are coming out, sometimes more so. Like, I find myself more like drawn to a lot of the indie games that we were shown during the last week, more so than a couple of the big, huge releases that are coming out. And I do think that maybe as much as like the consumer has not cottoned on to the fact that games take longer, I think that potentially game studios and developers and publishers still think they have to make more and bigger to appease the audience. But I think actually, like, there's definitely people who do want more and they do want bigger, but there is, I think, quite a large player base now for games that are smaller, take less time to complete, aren't as filled with side quests or 1,000 planets. I think that's as much of a decent sized player base as these AAAs with ginormous maps and big skill trees and like lots and lots of content are. And I think a lot of the time now, like specifically now, people don't have the attention span for these big AAA games that take hours and hours and hours to finish, where they do have one that might take them 10 to 20 hours to do. And I just think that it is obviously, like we say, we're not experts in game development. We don't know who's making the decision and what's going on there,
or where the dial is,
exactly on the big game computer. But it would be nice to see. Well, I think we do see quite a lot of these A's and AA's coming from smaller studios like Focus Entertainment and Annapurna. They put a lot of stuff out that's kind of like AA, like genre, not genre. What's the word I'm looking for? Size, I guess. And these games do really well. Like Stray, for example, did so well and was such like a kind of not cult classic, but you know what I mean? Like had a big following very quickly, not just because of the cat, but also because it was a game that isn't too big and people finished and enjoyed in a condensed amount of time. And it got just as much attention last year as a lot of these big AAA games from ginormous studios. The same with Kena. That got as much attention the year before as a lot of the games that came out that same year. So I would like to see more AA's and single A games coming from these big studios. I would like to see them to be a bit cheaper because they're just not affordable. Games are just not affordable at the moment, especially during the COSI lives. So
I was so with you until then.
So I would like to see less. I would like to see less, as we say. Less is more. So give me a bit less, if that's all right with you, for less money as well. Thanks so much.
I think AAA games, from a production, frequency, visual, gameplay, and stability aspect, peaked in 2011. Specifically 2011, the near end point of the PS3 360 generation. Games were being turned around in 2 years. I think they still look great today. They ran largely pretty well, and they told a great story and still have diehard fans to this day.
Yeah.
Now, in the world that, because he's not wrong, Mr. Booty is not wrong. Games do take years and years to make. It's a fact. That's how it is. But what a bloody risk that is now, to spend 7 years making the next Mass Effect and have it be a disastrous, buggy mess. You know, this is just conjecture based on Andromeda, but still, like there are track records for these things or evidence of these things going wrong this way over and over and over again with these huge budgets and these huge development cycles.
And we have seen them go right as well.
Absolutely.
But it is more obviously, things that are bad get talked about more and are more kind of more of an issue than things that go right.
Why don't we, as I've spoken about before, Ashton, why don't we
go
back to 2011, not physically, not literally go back to 2011, but make games on 2011, like to 2011 standards in terms of their visuals, but using current gen hardware to like make the worlds more densely populated and detailed. Like the flipping assault on the Oblivion Gate from the end of Oblivion, where it's the war to end all wars or whatever, and there's 6 people involved in it, and that's it, because that's all the game could handle. Why don't we have games look like that, but we can put more things into them? Surely that.
I think what you want is Avowed. That's what you want.
Avowed, yes, I do want Avowed. I think you make a very valid point, Peter, about Insomniac. I think they are the standard bearers. We've definitely spoken about it before, that they somehow, I know that they're a bigger studio than a lot of other ones, but it's kind of insane that they did Spider-Man, then Miles Morales, and Ratchet and Clank, and now we've got Spider-Man 2
in
the
space
space
at the same time,
of just a few years. Like they really have mastered. And Ratchet and Clank wasn't a huge game either.
No.
But it felt great to play, and it was like the perfect duration.
And it looks great as well.
And it looked phenomenal. We don't need every game to be massive. You're right that some games should be massive. I don't care if I don't hear from Naughty Dog for close to a decade, and then they come out with something that changes the world. That's fine.
Rockstar as well.
But but when every studio's doing that, of course fans are going to get a little tired of waiting. And then when all these games start coming out and they're all 70 quid, that makes it an even harder sell. I don't think games need to be as complicated as they are, not all of them. And you're right, Ashton, as well, that there are a lot of great alternatives now. Unfortunately, I think some of them should be coming out of Embracer, but we haven't really had those. But they would be perfectly positioned to release a line of not budget games, but like release, if you got 300 odd games in development, they can't all be 70 quid.
Yeah.
And they would be a great source of those, but we haven't had those.
Well, it's why it's so nice to see these smaller publishers putting all these things out, like Devolver putting their own, showcase on. Admittedly, they only showed like 8 games, but of those 8 games, most people were interested in all of them. We saw a significant amount of gameplay, and these games won't be £70. The same with Annapurna at the end of the month. We're getting a showcase from them, which I'm actually really happy for them, and I'm really excited about what they're going to show, because a lot of the games that they've brought out recently have done really well and have been really good. So it's exciting to see these kind of smaller developers do so well in those gaps between big giant games that are coming out from these big studios. So it's just nice. It's nice to see that. Yeah, let them keep doing what they do. Who cares about what they're doing? Because we've got all these other studios that are helping us fill the gaps between the 10 years it takes Naughty Dog to make a new game. So,
Yeah. It's time.
It is.
For something a little strange.
A little peculiar, perhaps.
It's weird news.
It's weird news time for some weird video game news. If you want to submit some weird video game news to us, you can do so by posting it in reply to the social media post on Twitter and Facebook. It did happen this week.
It did.
However, if you would like to guarantee a shout out at this point in the podcast, you need to go to patreon.com/Team TripleJump, support us at a certain tier, and become a podcast producer, just like
GY Goliath,
Nicole Hansen,
that's me, Duncan Wilson,
Katie Garrett or Jared,
Gabrielle Philippink,
Ellie Nicholas,
Nexus Polaris,
Melody Elbonnet,
and Blake Thomas.
Thank you, podcast producers.
Thank you very much, podcast producers. What weird news you got, Peter Austin?
I've got a weird news that was submitted via Facebook from Matthew Wesolowski. It's according to menshumor.com. So me and Ben are going to find it funny.
Wait.
Ashton's going to hate it.
I'm not going to
You're
understand
not allowed.
it.
It's like
it's going to go straight over my head.
McCoy's.
Yeah.
Consent to cookies. Yeah, sure. This is written by Kamal Bankor, I think. Man accused of using Nintendo Duck Hunt pistol in bizarre store robbery.
I didn't understand.
No. In a bizarre turn of events, a man has been arrested in connection with an armed robbery at a convenience store in Ciaran, South Carolina. The suspect, identified as David Joseph D'Alessandro, 25, allegedly used a Nintendo video game controller to threaten a shop worker into handing over $300. The incident took place at a quick stop store on Tuesday evening, May the 30th, 2023. I should say, actually, this was apparently more of a last week news story, but it was submitted this week regardless.
The person submitted it did reply to our podcast post being like, I had weird news, but the post didn't go up.
Oh,
so
right.
they were ready last week.
Okay.
Which is fine. Per Sky News, eyewitnesses reported that the perpetrator entered the store wearing a wig, mask, and a hoodie sweatshirt that concealed his identity. He then demanded cash from the cashier while brandishing what appeared to be a gun in his waistband. However, upon further investigation by authorities, it was discovered that the weapon used was a spray-painted Nintendo Duck Hunt game pistol. Duck Hunt is here we go, the filler. Duck Hunt is a classic shooter game where players aim to hit on-screen moving targets, and so on and so forth. Following the robbery, law enforcement officers from the York County Sheriff's Office quickly responded to the scene. They located D'Alessandro in a nearby car park with a fake gun in his possession. He was promptly arrested and taken into custody, and D'Alessandro has been booked into the York County Detention Center, where he awaits further legal proceedings. It continues, but it's just sort of saying, this incident highlights the extent to which individuals are willing to go to carry out criminal acts. And while video games are primarily designed for entertainment purposes, instances like this demonstrate the potential for misuse or misrepresentation.
I can't believe they're mansplaining even to men.
I know.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
It's not like any women are going to be reading this, so they don't need to explain it because men are so smart.
Yeah.
SMRT.
And then they've filled the rest of the article with just a related or unrelated story about a different robbery that happened that was a weird one.
Cool.
A thief was found cleaning his own mess after his robbery ended up going viral and giving a small bakery a business boost. Okay.
Sick. Cool. That was weird.
Yeah.
I have some weird news too. Comes from Paul Ansell and Josh Lees. They were different stories, but I'm picking the Kotaku one. By Luke Plunkett. And also, it's Kotaku Australia, and it looks so weird compared to the regular. Yeah, look, it's all different and red.
Yeah, we've had different Australia ones before.
Anyway, BioWare pulls Mass Effect statue after everyone WTFs.
Right.
Earlier today, BioWare announced a new piece of merch for Mass Effect fans, a statue of Commander Shepard from the opening of Mass Effect 2, where if you need reminding, they are found dead and floating in space.
Yeah.
Okay.
The statue was accompanied by a slightly odd press release, and the combination of the two has led to a lot of fans spending the day wondering if everything was okay at the BioWare Gear store. The statue, released as part of a range that also features Caden, Thane, and the Elusive Man, was pitched in a press release as a conversation starter and described it as the Mass Effect Shepard's death statue depicts Mass Effect 2's dramatic opening scene. Commander Shepard expelled from a crumbling Normandy and hurtling towards space to her untimely demise. That's a weird thing to capture in a statue. Weirder still when it's pitched that way and you see the sculpture. This is the sculpture.
Oh. Just floating dead.
What? That's so what?
Yeah, so they haven't really explained it in this article, but basically people were like, it's a bit weirdly posed and a bit potentially
that was the other thing I
sexual.
thought about. I wasn't sure if it was just me being, I guess, especially for someone who walks in and maybe doesn't know about Mass Effect. And they're like, why have you just got like a woman lying on her back?
Like spread eagle.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a very odd one.
To be clear, nobody is angry at this. It's just weird news. And so many people thought so. And so many people thought so that having had a day of feedback, BioWare decided to not only pull the press release announcing the statue, but pulled the statue itself from their online store as well. In a statement issued this evening, BioWare says, "Hi all, earlier today we announced the sale of our latest Mass Effect Shepard statue. The statue was intended to be part of a series commemorating some of the key and most emotional moments in the series. The way we announced it did not convey that properly, nor does it give the moment in the series the credit it deserves. As a result, we're pausing the sale of the statue until we can share the larger plan with you. Thanks, BioWare Gear Store.
I wonder if someone internally was like, that looks weird. Don't post that. It's like, what do you mean? We've got to post that. Don't post that. We've got to. Like, we've made this. Okay, fine. Go on then.
And now they've been promoted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so can we pull it now? There had to have been someone inside who saw that and thought, that's crap, right?
Yeah, I mean, it also doesn't look very good.
No.
Like, it doesn't really make much sense, just on its own anyway. But yeah, it is a bit weird. Anyway, there you go. BioWare pulled it almost immediately because people were like, what the hell is that? Also, it cost €135.
No, thank you. No, thank you. My weird news comes courtesy of Steven Skodes at @Skodes8 on Twitter. This is an article from Time Extension. It's not that. McDonald's just released a Game Boy Color game in 2023.
Cool.
This was written by Damien McFerrin. No, you're not reading that headline incorrectly. Fast food giant McDonald's has just released a Game Boy Color game in the year of our Lord 2023. Developed by Cruel Toys, Grimace's Birthday launched yesterday via its own website. You can play the game in your browser, but the game itself was built to function on Nintendo's 1998 handheld, and the ROM image has been dumped online, so you can do just that. The game is a platformer which sees the return of McDonald Land characters Grimace, Birdie the Early Bird, Hamburglar, and the McNugget Buddies, all to mark the arrival of the Grimace Birthday Ice Cream Shake product served at US McDonald's restaurants.
Was Grimace in the UK? Like,
I feel at one point,
I've
yes.
seen him in
It must
the
have
weird
been, yeah.
playgrounds that still exist in
McDonald's
a few.
Oh, yeah,
doesn't
yeah,
really,
yeah.
hasn't been a thing for so
No.
long in anywhere. The game is the work of Grumpy Function, Tom Lockwood, and Parasitic, Brian Taylor, both of whom have worked on modern Game Boy games in the past. You can download the ROM file here. It then talks a little bit about McDonald's past games. But yeah, there's a Game Boy Color game. I've played it and I've made a video about it. It's on the channel right now. You can go and watch it. It's quite the experience. I should have said I'd been playing that in what we've been playing, to be honest. I have played Grimace's Birthday. It is quite the experience, and I'm going to tell you all about it in the video that is on our YouTube
In Review
channel.
Corner right now.
Here we
Yeah,
go.
here we go.
But do watch the video, please, and share it around. Very weird. And yes, you can actually just go and download it and play it in an emulator, which is what I did, or play it in your web browser. So there we are. Weird news.
Weird
Amazing.
news.
It's time.
Sorry.
bloody hell. For the big discussion.
Oh.
It's big discussion time. Time for the big video game discussion that this week's courtesy of Cameron Keywood. Hi, Bap. Now that Key 3, as in Keeley 3, very good, is over for this year, what were your thoughts on each conference that has happened since the last podcast? What games look promising? What games underwhelmed? And what were your personal top 5 games shown? Kind regards, Cameron J. Keywood. Thank you, Cameron.
Thank you, Cameron.
So there have been a few shows, as we said at the beginning of the episode, since we last spoke. We only covered Summer Game Fest, really, last time. Did we talk about Devolver?
We
as
talked
well,
a little bit about Devolver, yeah.
Devolver was good fun. I watched that. What was his name? Ronathan Trodfield.
Ronathan Trodfield.
He's
yeah.
very good. I enjoyed him a lot. So we're going to just we're not going into full detail because we'll be here forever. We're just going to run briefly through the various showcases in terms of our thoughts. And then we will talk about our favorite games and games that we didn't feel like quite delivered. Peter,
Yeah.
Ashton talked to me about Wholesome Game Show.
Yes, I watched this the other day. The themes this year were stickers. There was multiple stickers games.
Right.
That's nice.
Farming, and also photography was a
Oh,
big theme this
nice.
year. I enjoyed it. There's always loads and loads of trailers in Wholesome Games. They don't talk that much. They were also supporting Able Gamers, which I think is great. And I have wishlisted on Steam a bunch of the games that they announced. Lots of very interesting art styles and games that they've got coming out. So well worth the watch if you're looking for some more PC games to play. I also got
stuff.
a mobile game from them. A few mobile games actually that they
You had to do a
advertised.
checkup, didn't you, in between
I did
sections?
because my tip jar was full. So,
Running
yeah.
such a good Campfire Cat Cafe.
Campfire Cat Cafe.
Lovely.
Yes.
Very
yeah.
nice.
Ben, you watched Future Game
I
Show,
did,
didn't you?
yeah. Ashton and I reacted
We
to the Future
did.
Game Show. This was a surprisingly fun one.
Yeah.
I wasn't going in there expecting a great deal. It had Yuri Lowenthal and Laura Bailey presenting it. Yuri Lowenthal making Spider-Man references.
Oh, they were both making Spider-Man
Stop,
references.
even though they obviously didn't show any Spider-Man.
I saw some of it, and I couldn't tell if I liked or hated their presenting style. Some of it seemed cringe, and some of it was like, oh no, they've got like charisma and they've got chemistry. But
Yeah.
There was some forced banter, but also as actors, they actually did a pretty good job.
It wasn't like forced banter in the way that like sometimes when you get two devs trying to do forced banter, it was actually like they made it sound like it wasn't too forced.
Yeah.
But I really liked the Future Game Show. I thought it was better than Summer Game Fest in the sense that the games that they showed off were so much more diverse. It didn't feel like the way that I felt about Summer Games, which was a bit like we've paid to be here, but all of the games that have paid to be here are games that are very much able to, in the sense that they're all lots very similar, free to play, live service games. They all were very similar vibes for a lot of Summer Game Fest games. And I felt that Future Games, apart from skipping that one game, had a real diverse set of games that we got to see a lot of. Lots of like gameplay in there as well, which is always nice to see.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And in case you aren't familiar with what happened, the stream buffered for everyone. It was on their end. And it was showing an interesting looking dinosaur game.
Instinction?
Instinction.
And then it just cut the end off when it would have told us the name of the game, and then it cut back in for the next trailer. Those poor Star Truckers.
I feel bad for them.
Those poor developers, they didn't even get their name out there as they wanted to, which is a real shame. Peter, talk to me about Xbox Showcase and Starfield Direct.
Hey, in a way, I was kind of impressed by this. It's quite difficult to keep up with the rate at which both Sony and Xbox are dropping the ball and then recovering, and then dropping the ball and then recovering in a sort of PR fashion, because we had the PlayStation Showcase not long before SGF began. It was almost kind of like their Summer Games Fest thing, but it wasn't very impressive. I think we sort of agreed. And then Xbox come along, having recently made a few public mistakes and not kind of being in the best sort of spotlight. And I thought it was a pretty good showcase, to be honest.
Yeah.
It was up there with one of the best ones of the week. So we'll get to games later, but, I thought Fable was a really strong opening. And obviously we saw a bit of... That was where we saw Star Wars first, wasn't it? And then Ubisoft obviously showed more later on. There were some really nice looking things. And, it's once again brought the needle back towards maybe I should buy a Series S or X. I don't know, but it looked good.
Yeah, I was really impressed with Xbox's showcase. It was, I think, at least as strong as it needed to be after the stuff that's been going on recently. And Starfield well and truly did the job for me. There was a lot of stuff in there that I was a bit worried about, like, here's all the barren planets with nothing on. And they weren't really showcasing a great deal of personality until I feel like maybe the latter half, when they were like, grandma's going to show up on her ship and she's going to have like meals for you.
Yeah. And you can steal sandwiches.
You can steal sandwiches. You can go and visit your mum and dad on whatever planet they're on and see them.
The adoring fan is there.
The adoring fan is in there. You can build ridiculous Willy rocket ships or just absurd like Optimus Prime looking things. That was the stuff I was really hoping to see, and they spent a lot of that showcase or that direct not really showing it, but then I think the personality came out towards the end, and I'm looking forward to it, even if it's capped at 30 frames per second. At least we know that now, and it's not great news obviously, but at least we know that now, rather than going into the game and like Redfall, like, oh, by the way, it barely runs.
I would say it was maybe a bit long, but like it was good. What they showed was good.
I'm going to serve a flip sandwich now, in the sense that I thought it was way better than PlayStation. I wish we'd seen more gameplay. We've got loads of CG and not many release dates. And also a lot of the games they announced were really interesting, and I'm excited to find out more.
Yes, there were a few that were missing. I think Indiana Jones wasn't there. And I can't remember. I was reading some article earlier about I think the Matt Booty thing, saying, oh yeah, we haven't seen these games for a while. What's going on? So there's a few things much like the PlayStation Showcase where they're just clearly not ready to show them, which is a bit of a shame. But otherwise, really strong. I think it was what it needed to be.
Just give me that gameplay. Just let me know what games play like, please.
Is Richard Ayoade really?
I don't want to get
Fable?
excited until I know that if I'm going to like the game. Thanks so much. Anyway.
Thank you so much. PC Gaming Show, Ashton.
Oh my God. I just want to take a moment to talk about this, because I know that no one else has watched this, but there's a guy who hosts it. It's called, I don't know what his real name is, but his gamer tag thing is Day9. He does like a podcast. I don't know. He's into games. He hosts it with Frankie, who is kind of a esports host. No, not from the Saturdays. I can't remember what her surname is, but she does a lot of esports stuff and a lot of streaming. Anyway, they need to stop letting this man host this show. Right, every time I watch PC Gamer, he's always there, and it's just like, oh my god, he's not funny, and the jokes that they make aren't funny. This time it was all about AI, and they turned Frankie into an AI, who then periodically, like every time they cut back, they do a joke, and it'd be like, oh, I've made up a game for you, it's about Morris dancers, and then he'd be like, oh, AI is so stupid, and then at one point he's dressed as like Steve Jobs. Oh, it's just so dumb, and I hated every single second of it. Okay. Like the games were decent. I got a lot of interesting games that I've added to my wish list. But can we please stop letting this man host it? Because I had to turn it off halfway through when I was watching it live, and then come back another day and skip through it because it's so much guff. They try and do Devolver, but it just never hits because the guy isn't funny. So can we stop letting this man? If he's going to host it, just let him host it. Don't give him skits and stupid little jokes that he can't pull off. Just, my God, like, I don't know who this man is, but they need to stop letting him out of his cage, please.
Slay.
No, it's not a slay.
Slay.
It's giving dad a barbecue is what it's giving from that guy.
Is that your thoughts?
That's my thoughts. Okay. Some of the games were decent. I've added them to my wish list on Steam. There's lots of games we've seen before, yeah. But my God, please stop letting that man host it. Anyway.
Next. Do you want to do Xbox Extended?
Yeah, sure. I reacted to that earlier this week, and that was a bit of a slog, not going to lie. That was a hard one to react to, mainly because there was nothing inherently wrong with the showcase Extended itself. It was just that by its very nature, it was a lot of talking. Yeah. And I was sat there going, cool. All right. Yeah, that's great. They didn't really show much new from the games that they were going into detail about. We talked a little bit more about the Cyberpunk expansion. Keanu Reeves was there, but for some reason they talked to Keanu Reeves for about 5 minutes about his character of Johnny Silverhand, which of course is a character we've known about for 3 years because the game's been out for 3 years. I didn't really feel like they put much focus on the actual DLC, which was a real shame. They went into detail a little bit, but not quite enough for my liking. It was a bit more along the lines of, hey, we've got Keanu here.
Yeah,
let's get him. At the end, the lady interviewing him says, I've got a request for you. Like, how would Johnny Silverhand sign off this interview? And he goes, and he just gets up and starts to shake her hand. She's like, oh, really? He'd shake my hand? And he goes, you're a good egg. And that's how it ends. And it's like, what?
I don't know if that's what Johnny Silverhand
I don't think Johnny Silverhand would react so
I think they were trying to manufacture another Mimi.
Possibly.
Moment.
Just let Keanu be weird.
Yeah.
And he was like, he just did not feel comfortable.
He always scares me how he
should have prepped him with that question ahead of time.
Yeah.
He clearly was blindsided by it and did not want to act as Johnny Silverhand would. It was very weird. And then I think we got the announcement that Phasmophobia is coming to consoles, which is exciting. They showed some more Hi-Fi Rush stuff, like an update that doesn't add any new story stuff. It's like some challenge modes and some skins and things like that. They're like photo mode tweaks and so on. It was pretty forgettable, to be honest. It ended with a kind of uncomfortable 3-player co-op session in that 33-player game that we saw where Phil Spencer was there.
33 Immortals, isn't it?
Yeah, something like that. And he was playing that too, and it was just, it looked a bit Hades-ish, and I think my brain just sort of fell out of my ears, and they were having some kind of strange scripted banter. It was really hot, and I had started to drink to cope at that point.
Right.
And the latter half of that conference, I can't really remember, but it was fine. It was a nice supplementary thing to go with the original showcase if you wanted some more information about the games that they covered there.
Right. And we also had Ubisoft, which I reacted to. And you know what? I actually enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I thought it was a fairly strong showing. I mean, I'm never really going to go in for an Ubisoft tactical shooter. And, you know, we saw a bit of that.
I can't remember what it's called.
X Division.
Is that it?
X Defiant.
X Defiant.
When they were showing it, I was like, what the hell is
X
this?
Defiant.
So that's not really for me. Avatar, I think, like, I think for some reason it's like the franchise specifically that is sort of turning me off that game, or like
I
not
didn't think it looked
turning
very
me on.
good.
No, it didn't look graphically that impressive. I did comment on that at the beginning, and then also just specifically because it's Avatar, I'm like, do I care about this? To be fair, I've not seen the second movie, and a lot of people
So long.
who weren't keen to see the second movie went in and watched it and came out saying it was actually better than I thought.
Yeah, it still made like $12 billion.
Exactly.
But I haven't spoken to anyone who enjoyed it.
Right,
Which is
okay.
really
My
weird.
boyfriend really enjoyed it.
Did he? Okay.
Yeah. I might-
There's one then.
But yeah,
I
he's
was
like,
so
"Oh, we
bored.
should watch it," and I'm like, "Yeah."
So, you know, I'm very much I'm
So
in the
long.
mindset of like people before they go in to see Avatar 2, where I'm like, "Ugh, Avatar, really? And then
Yeah.
apparently some people come out saying, oh, it was actually all right.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But then yeah, again, I don't want to go too specific on games because some of the ones I brought along are Ubisoft ones. But yeah, overall I thought it was fairly impressive.
Yeah.
And Prince of Persia kind of surprised me that like we kind of got as much of an in-depth kind of showcase of that as we did. And the guy seemed very keen. I thought he was quite endearing. Like he just loved his game.
he did love his game.
Yeah.
They all did. I've got a real like vintage vibe from Ubisoft.
Yeah.
Like it felt like an E3 conference, like that we've seen. You know, the cringy ones where they come out and they talk about their games, and all the devs really cared, and it was really nice. I mean,
said it reminded me of like the Rayman kind of love for Ubisoft's.
There was one guy who came out, and I can't remember what game he was talking about, but he had such a thick French accent
Yes.
that I couldn't understand what he was saying.
was,
You're talking about the crew.
Yeah, the crew.
Yeah. Well, that's all right, because I didn't really care about that. But I was like, I love this guy. He's trying his best.
I also thought that it felt like a throwback, but I in a negative way,
Oh,
unfortunately.
you don't like it?
There was like, I just thought it was really uncomfortable seeing these developers up on stage who clearly most of them weren't very comfortable being there.
Right.
And it kept cutting to like stuff that they had on their screens where in like a digital version, why wasn't this pre-recorded? I don't really understand.
I think it was pre-recorded. I don't think it was live.
Well, as in like, but
it
they
was
were in
done
front of
on
an
a
audience.
stage. Oh, it was-
like, why didn't they just record voiceover for those bits? Because a lot of them were voiceover anyway. They were saying stuff and then pausing awkwardly and
Sort of
waiting for
silence.
applause.
And the camera wouldn't necessarily cut to the screen, so it would just show them standing with the screen
Waiting, yeah.
behind them,
The
just sort of watching it.
just the general production was like kind of a bit weird. Like the Just Dance at the start.
Oh,
I
yeah.
feel really sorry for those dancers because it was shot horribly. Like they
Yeah.
were doing their best.
and lit
it-
horribly as well.
it just looked like they were on a stage, like
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
a school or something. It was there was something really bizarre about it. I think it was a good showcase in general, but I do feel like a lot was lost by not just getting those developers in front of a green screen and into a voice studio
Well, I
to just talk
thought
about
the
it.
first for Avatar, like they had just put her voice over the top of the gameplay. And it was only later on when they started cutting back and forth to like the guy speaking over the top, and then cutting to like shots of the audience randomly. I don't know what the like vision mixer was doing on that show, but he was like just cutting all over
All
the
the
place.
audience cameras were kind of out of focus as well,
Yeah.
or heavily zoomed in.
Or you
on
Very
couldn't
low
see because it was so
quality,
dark.
yeah.
So like the ISO
Very
was all the way
low
up.
quality.
So I agree the production wasn't very good, but I did actually find it quite endearing to
Me
see.
too.
I think particularly Prince of Persia, whatever that guy's name was, like seeing people on stage talking quite passionately about the game they've been working on for a few years. And visually, Prince of Persia, there was something about it that reminded me of. It was very Ubisoft in the sort of the better sense, rather than, I said this while I was live, I was like, rather than Ubi worlds, as we call them, where you have a drone and you have towers that you have to climb in every game that they release, it was more kind of the Rayman, the Rabbids kind of like, yeah, here we are. We have character here.
Well, don't get too sad about the not being that stuff, because it looks like in Avatar you can go and what's the word? You can help a base out.
Yeah.
You liberate a
you
base.
can
Liberate
do
a
that in
base
Avatar,
and
yeah.
fly around.
Yeah, there was
on-
still plenty of Ubi worlds as well, but
Yeah.
it was nice to see some of this kind of more characterful, more vintagey Ubisoft stuff there, I thought.
Yeah.
Overall, though, I thought the last week was pretty good.
Yeah.
I feel like I was more invigorated by the weekend of stuff than I was Summer Game Fest and the week
Okay.
before.
Yeah, follow-up question then, Ashton.
Yes.
You recently said that you don't like games anymore, or you get the sense that
I
you
don't feel like
them.
I feel like I was excited about stuff.
Yeah,
now.
so it's now you're in a different place.
Yeah.
Post SGF.
Yeah, there was stuff that I was like, oh man, actually really excited for that to come out. thanks the weekend of games that wasn't Summer Game Fest. I think Summer Game Fest just put me in a bad mood because just nothing was in there that I really enjoyed.
That's the thing. It was probably, of the showcases I watched, I think the actual Summer Game Fest was maybe the one I was least excited by, surprisingly.
I think PlayStation Showcase was objectively the worst one of the bunch.
Yeah, if we're counting that as part.
Definitely the most
But
disappointing.
then Summer Game Fest, like you say, is the weakest of the ones that I think we saw in the last week. So, yeah.
There was some good stuff there. There was. And there was also a Capcom Direct as well, where they showed a bit of, what was it called? Dragon's Dogma 2. I think they showed some gameplay there. And they also announced the infinite delaying of one of the games that they announced a couple of years ago. I can't remember what it's called, but it was the weird one about the child floating with an astronaut.
I really liked it where they put, "We're sorry," sad face on a piece of paper.
So you can go watch that. All of these are on demand now on YouTube. We reacted to a lot of them, so you can see our reactions on the VODs channel, but we didn't react to all of them. Peter,
yes,
can you tell me, before we get into our actual proper top 5 personal games.
Yeah.
Were there any that sort of stood out to you as like, hey, that looked pretty cool. I like the look of that.
Well, they are in my top 5, all the ones that...
Okay, so you've got 5 games.
Yes.
Okay. Ashton, do you have any that stood out to you?
Oh, you mean more than 5?
Yeah, beyond your top 5.
I've got a couple. I've got Clockwork Revolution. I'm like, I want to see more of that and work out what it is. It seems kind of intriguing. I want to know whether Plucky Squire was a Devolver.
It wasn't.
Was it? No. I mean, it was at PlayStation, wasn't it? So if we're counting that, I mean, that's something that we already know about and I'm looking forward to. But to see that again and be reminded that exists, I was like, oh yeah, great, Plucky Squire.
Still no release date for that though, which is a shame.
Yeah,
I kind of expected it to come out soon.
I mean, I was thinking about that game when we were talking about the sort of AA question earlier on. I was like, that's presumably not going to be a huge scale game, so that is seemingly taking quite a while to come out. But then there are other games like that, like Little Devil Inside. That,
where is that?
Yeah, so those are probably a couple that aren't in my actual top 5 there.
I have got a game called Nivalis, which was announced during PC Gaming. We've seen it before. It's like a cyberpunk world where you own like a coffee shop or like a establishment, and you have to kind of work your way up to kind of building a franchise. But it's like in first person, so you go and you like pour the coffee and stuff. But I really like the look of that when they announced it last year, and they showed it off again this year. But we still haven't got a release date. It's still coming soon, so hopefully that'll be coming sooner rather than later. Nice. And also Still Wakes the Deep, which is the Chinese Room and Secret Mode.
Oh yeah.
Game that's set on like an oil rig. Looks spooky, looks interesting, and the Chinese Room done some really good stuff, so I'm excited to see what that comes out like. But we saw a bit of gameplay, but I would still like to see more. So
yes,
yeah,
that's a very exciting one. Ruffy and the Riverside.
Oh yeah,
had a lovely art style. I think that was a Future Game Show, that one. Lords of the Fallen looked surprisingly good, actually, considering the first one wasn't very good. Station to Station looked very nice. What did you call it? Voxel art?
That's what they called it.
That's it, yeah, because I want to call it pixel art, but that's not what it is. Assassin's Creed Mirage I've put down as one that looks pretty good. Remnant 2.
Well, these are not in your top 5.
These are not in my top 5.
Oh.
Remnant 2, Star Wars Outlaws, and Towerborn are just a few. There were more that I could have put down, but those weren't, like, I wanted to... There's a couple of big ones that I haven't included in my top 5, and I just wanted to...
Oh, I had loads that I was really excited for, but I didn't write them down because I only wrote 5 down.
Mirage is not in my top 5, actually, but does look good.
Yeah, it does.
Spoiler alert, it's in my top 5.
Whoa! Peter, was there anything that stuck out to you that was disappointing?
Hang on. No, well, maybe Avatar, I think, didn't look as good as it should graphically. Because although I am like not particularly interested in the franchise, I thought if they delivered a trailer and some gameplay that looked like, astonishingly good, then I definitely could have got excited for it. But no, I just thought at times it didn't look good. I haven't really thought about others that were, stuck out in a negative way, but I'll think on. But Ashton, what about you?
The only, like you say, underwhelming game that was something that we knew about that I was kind of like, that doesn't quite meet expectations was Avatar. But just purely because I thought some of the animations looked a bit awkward and clunky, and it didn't look as bright, and there was that mist that like distance missed that we got a lot of in the gameplay. I'm still excited to see how it plays, and I'll give it a go. I thought it was interesting how much gunplay we saw from. I mean, in the story version, like it makes sense that like you know how to use a gun, you know how to use Navi weapons as well. But I just was a bit like, oh, it's a lot more gunplay than I was expecting, and it did feel a little bit like a reskinned Far Cry from what we saw. But hopefully it won't be. But that was the one where I was a little bit like, But I don't think it's going to get talked about as much. I mean, admittedly, it was stuck in a showcase with a Star Wars game, but I just don't think it's going to quite. It didn't quite like get the hype that I think it should have got.
I know that as you said, Peter, the movie has just come out of the way of water, and so there is renewed interest in the franchise. But I still think it's crazy that they're doing a game now.
Seems like a waste of resources when they could be just doing something else.
Yeah, they could have made anything else.
Yeah.
I've got a couple of things noted down. One of them isn't even a game. It's the Twisted Metal TV show. That did not look good.
I wasn't underwhelmed because I had no whelm to begin with.
No, there was no whelm to give. And it's not really, again, it's sort of bending the rules here, but the fact that Skull and Bones is getting an open beta in August, how are we still doing this with Skull and Bones?
But they sung you a nice little song. Didn't you enjoy the little song?
The song was there. It sure was. And there was a man who was beatboxing and saying Skull and Bones. And that was weird. But yeah, it's like, just what are you doing?
Well,
what's happening there?
It's funny you say Skull and Bones. I was trying to think of like anything else while Ashton was giving her answer. And again, it's not quite specifically a game that disappointed me, but I was disappointed by the fact, and moaned on Twitter about it, that before the event, they had two people sitting on a sofa looking at clips of all the games that were going to be at the Ubisoft showcase going, oh, look, it's Assassin's Creed. And then at the end, there was this like gold and black flag or material. And they went, wait, what's that game? And I assumed it was going to be some sort of new announcement, like a new IP or something. I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. We'll see what this is. Because like, why would you go, wait, what's that game?
I think we talked about this. Did we talk about this?
We talked about it at some point.
Right.
Stream,
but we didn't talk about the after the fact.
Right, because I think I said, could it be Skull and Bones?
Well, yeah, and
that's
we've
what we
since
said.
like seen that they didn't. Like in the show, we never specifically saw that clip of like the gold and black thing.
Right.
But we saw a black flag with gold paint splashed on it in a skull and crossbones.
Right.
But the thing that we saw in the trailer was like it looked like a really modern material, like something a racing driver would wear or something. It was like it had like gold leaf like on it in like little circles. It looked like a modern fabric.
Right.
So after the show, I was like, was that it? Is that what that was? Because it didn't look like someone had just painted gold onto a fabric.
It would have made more sense if it was like a shot of like Star Wars, because no one knew anything about Star Wars. So to show like Skull and Bones,
thinking, wait, what's that game? And it's like a really close up of some Star Wars fabric or something. But yeah, so that I found that disappointing because I just thought they were going to announce a new IP at the end, and they didn't.
Yeah. Is anyone excited for Skull and Bones?
No.
Does anybody want to play? Like,
I'm intrigued by it in the sense of like
it can't be good, right?
Well, this is the thing. Like, I don't really enjoy Sea of Thieves, and I feel like it's kind of a competitor of like, do you want to be a pirate? Play this game.
But it's do you want to be a pirate ship? Is what it is.
Yeah,
like
that's
if it
true.
involved some RPG like pirate on land gameplay as well, I'd be way more interested. But
does it not? Do we know?
Probably just naval battles.
Right.
Oh, is it?
Probably,
I'm less interested now.
You might like wander into a port and like buy a new steering wheel for your ship, but like I don't think it's got, going off onto a tropical island and having a sword fight with a skeleton. I don't think that's going to be happening.
They already did that, didn't they? There's Assassin's Creed 4. Like
Well,
they made this game close to 10 years ago now.
They made it because people liked the naval battles in that game, and so
it's
this is
still
just a
not
naval
out.
battle sim, I think.
Bonkers. Anyway, let's talk about something a bit more positive. Peter,
Yes.
what would you say your top 5 games are? Or just 5 games that you're very much looking forward to from the show?
Okay, in sort of an order, but not quite. At number 5-ish, I would say Dragon's Dogma. I played the first one, and that is the only reason why I'm excited for the sequel. I think otherwise, if it had been presented to me as a new sort of JRPG fantasy game, I'd be like, okay, I mean, it's another one of those. they exist, Monster Hunter or whatever, like I wouldn't be as keen on it. But it's just a sequel to a game I enjoyed, so I'm intrigued. Yeah. Am I doing all my 5, or are we?
We could cycle between.
Through? Yeah, let's cycle through. Ashton.
I really, really, really liked the look of Assassin's Creed Mirage. It reminded me so much of Assassin's Creed 3 and Brotherhood. I liked the way it played. I liked the scaling all the city buildings. I liked the new abilities they showed off. I like the fact that the bird can get spotted now, so you have to you can't just send your bird in and see what you've got. I really liked the way Assassin's Creed Mirage looked, and it made me excited for Assassin's Creed again. Which I fell off of Valhalla, and I haven't ever gone back to finish it, but I'm really excited for Mirage. I think it looks great, and if it's smaller like they say it is, then I'm very much on board with it.
Yeah.
I thought it looked great. It made me really excited when I watched it. So that's probably one of my top 5.
Excellent. I'm a liar, and I doubled up, and I've also actually put Assassin's Creed Mirage. That's in my number 5 here. Yeah, much the same as you, Ashton. I did finish Valhalla, but I'm a little tired of the open world bloat of Ubisoft games. The fact that they are actively pitching this as a more of a return to classic Assassin's Creed sounds great. I'm all on board with that. Don't know if I'll get it at launch or play it at launch, but it's a welcome change as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Peter.
I feel like I say this a lot nowadays, but I need to see more, and it's got my attention, but I'm not decided yet. But I do like the sound of and look of Instinction. I thought so. I watched they've put the trailer online so that you can actually see the full thing, and not much was missed off other than the logo. I thought the one weird thing was the final shot is just this really, really, really long, lingering zoom on a sort of brachiosaurus or something. And then at the last minute, it moves its neck out so that you can see its face. And then it goes, dun, and then that's it. And I think what they designed it to be is that you think it's a tree. And then at the last second, it's revealed to be a long-necked dinosaur.
But clearly it's a dinosaur.
But it's just clearly a dinosaur all the way through this really long shot. So it has a really strange ending shot. But yeah, I've talked for a long time about how I'd love to have a dinosaur survival shooter game that's not Ark, and it appears to be happening. I'd like Capcom to do Dino Crisis, definitely, because they're really good at doing these remakes now, but Instinction looks really good, I think.
You've got to go through Exoprimal first.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, looks like no one bought Exoprimal, so people don't want a dinosaur game.
Yeah.
So we're not going to do Dino Crisis.
I really like the look of Clockwork Revolution. I'm a big fan of BioShock, and it had very similar Dishonored vibes. Instead, you've got the power in your left hand and a gun in your right hand. And I love as Peter put, clockpunk style world. I thought it looked great, and I'm excited for more of that kind of genre of game. So that's definitely on my list.
I had that in my list, and then it got shunted out. But it just looked really good.
Starfield is in my top 5 at number 4. I was very impressed by the showcase. I was already intending to play the game regardless when it came out, but now I'm actually kind of excited to do it. Don't know if I'm going to go to every single planet in the known universe, but I will go and see my grandma, and I will hopefully go and get up to some shenanigans, maybe hear some of those dreadful space intercourse lines that we heard about the other week.
On the sexy planet.
On the sexy planet, yeah. I'm looking forward to it. I hope there's a little more customization in terms of how you look and how you dress, because it's an awful lot of just sort of spacesuits, which I understand is realistic, but I kind of want to get a bit silly.
I want a pink spacesuit, please.
Yeah, I kind of want to get a bit crazy with it. It all looks a bit sort of.
If you can make your spaceship look like Optimus Prime, I think you should be allowed to make your spacesuit look like pink.
Even though you can make your spaceship look like Optimus Prime, though, there was a real sense of everything is grey and white, and I would quite like it to have a bit more colour to it than that, because I feel like that was one of the real strengths of the Outer Worlds. I like that. Anyway, that was another one we didn't see, the Outer Worlds 2. That was also from Xbox's showcase. Peter.
Weirdly, at number 3, for a relatively small game, I was really intrigued by Jusant, the climbing game.
Yeah, I've got that on my list as well.
I thought visually very appealing. It looked sort of quite zen. It looked like there was that much focus on the climbing that it's almost going to be essentially a puzzle game, but in terms of how you clamber up a certain place. So yeah, I think that just looked really nice and took me by surprise, really. So it's definitely, in terms of the size of games, it's definitely the one that intrigued me the most of the kind of smaller non-AAAs, because my last two are kind of much bigger boys. So that was the best small fish in a big pond that I was intrigued by.
I also had Just Dance on my top 5, but I have also realised that I said too many things when I said, oh, these aren't my top 5. But so I've talked about Still Wakes the Deep, which probably is in my top 5. But there was also South of Midnight that was announced at the Xbox showcase. But I don't want to get excited about it because we only saw a CG trailer. I like the style of the CG. I like the way it was a little bit like stop motion-y. And I like the style of it. The character looked like a mix between a whole bunch of female protagonists that we've seen before. But I'm interested in that game and I'm excited to see more about it, which we probably won't hear about for a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm excited when we do. So yeah, and also like Just Dance, I thought it looked really fun, really cute.
Excellent. Persona 3 Reload, which was leaked by Atlas a few days before it was meant to be announced at the Xbox showcase, but the trailer was identical, so I'd already seen it. However, it was pretty exciting. It's a remake of Persona 3. It looks a lot like Persona 5 in terms of how it's presented, which would make sense. My one hang-up, or a couple of hang-ups, I suppose, is that I feel like I've spent 2 months playing Persona 3 this year, and I have no interest to return to it anytime soon. I know it said that it's not coming out until next year, so maybe by then I'll be interested. And you can clip this out and show it to me when I get really excited when it comes out, and tell me what an idiot I am.
Isn't there a bit of backlash about that because it doesn't involve any of the additional content? It's just
that was my second hang-up. Yeah, so they've said that it's not going to include any of the additions in FES or Persona 3 Portable, which I spoke about at the time when I was playing Persona 3 Portable's re-release on PS4, that it was a shame because Persona 3 Portable introduced another character and some new mechanics, and FES was like an enhanced version of the original PS2 Persona 3, and it's a shame that the version that they decided to release the remaster of was a portable game that doesn't quite look or play the same as the proper PS2 one, but does have some features. How good would it be to combine the features of both of those to create the best of both worlds? But they haven't seemingly done that, or they have not necessarily. I don't know if they've clarified that you can't have a female protagonist in Persona 3 Reload. Rebirth is the Final Fantasy one. Persona 3 Reload, but that I feel like that would be a real shame if they didn't do that. But obviously they're going to be making loads of changes anyway, as it is a proper remake. So there we are. That's mine.
My number 2, I mean, to go back to disappointment, the one thing that I would have liked to see that we didn't see was gameplay of Fable. It would have been nice to actually get, because we've already seen a reveal trailer, like a CG thing with the fairy flying around. But that aside, I was still really intrigued by Fable. I really like the look of it. I love the kind of the very British style to it. It's what I think they've kind of like taken the essence of what made Fable good and seemingly got rid of some of the bloat that it had kind of gained over the years. It appears to be, I think they have said, haven't they, at some point, that it's kind of a reboot.
Yeah.
It's not really like the original Fable. I don't think there were ever giants, for example, in the original Fable series, from what I can remember. So I think they have said, like, it's still a British hero in a kind of a fairy tale world, but maybe they've taken inspiration from other aspects of fairy tales now, so that you do have a giant Richard Ayoade or, something else. There were some like little Easter eggs in there for Fable fans, like quite sort of famously, you could kick chickens. And in the first game, you could even choose your name to be Chicken Chaser. So there were these like predefined names that you could take, like titles, because they needed to record dialogue of people saying your name. So like you could only pick from a certain one. And one of them was Chicken Chaser that you would get. It kind of, it looks like, as I say, the best bits of Fable. But it remains to be seen whether it's actually going to be as good as a very nice CG trailer can sort of portray. So, that's my number 2.
I haven't done them in order, but this is my last one now. I really like the look of Star Wars Outlaws. I think it looks great, and I'm really excited to see more. I think the character looks cool. Your little mate looks cute. I don't really understand why they keep saying it's the first ever open world Star Wars game. Doesn't feel correct. I feel like there has been some before, but I guess it's just Ubisoft saying things. And yeah, I'm really excited for that game. It's something a bit different. I hope she doesn't turn into a Jedi, but I do like lightsabers. So if she does, I would actually think I'd be fine with it because I quite like lightsabers. But I don't want to go to Tatooine. Do not take me to Tatooine. They've already said we're going to Tatooine. I don't want to go there. I've been there so much in other stuff. I don't want to go to Tatooine. I wish Tatooine was blown up. I don't want to play in Tatooine anymore. So please don't take me there for long. But I'm excited to explore a different side of Star Wars in the world. I hope she's going to be like, I was just looking after myself, and now I'm going to fight the Empire. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited. I think it looks great.
Royal Family was the friends she made.
Yeah, exactly. And the sexy droid that people are simping over.
For God's sake.
It's because he's wearing a trench coat and his body looks like he's got a six-pack.
Well, it's not even a new model of droid. They've existed for ages in like the Clone Wars and stuff. But just because he's got a jacket on now, people are going mad for it.
A sexy trench coat on that sexy droid.
What a disaster.
I'd like to let everyone know that I do not think the droid is sexy. Do you think the droid's sexy, Ben?
Slay, right? Number 2 for me is Lies of P, which I have been increasingly impressed with, and I'm now worried that I'm sort of putting it in a place where when it comes out I'm going to hate it, because that is the nature of human existence and hype. But I have really enjoyed the demo, and I liked the trailer they showed. It was a little bit quippy. I'm not really sure why they have to stick to the Pinocchio story quite.
You don't like Jiminy Cricket?
Not a huge fan of Jiminy Cricket. No, he was a bit, whoa, buddy, careful there. And I don't need that. I would be quite happy if it was inspired by Pinocchio and didn't feature Jiminy Cricket at all.
Or he was some big, horrible monster.
Yeah, exactly. Just like, that was, I like the idea, the sort of clock punk world that it takes place in. But it's, I am optimistic for this game being good. So looking forward to it.
My number 1 is Star Wars Outlaws. I really, really, really hope you don't become a Jedi. I also quite strongly hope that you don't even join the rebellion and become a good person. There's enough of that already in Star Wars, in games and films and TV shows. And I would much prefer that you just spend your life as a scoundrel. All right, maybe a sort of kind-hearted, nice scoundrel who perhaps still does good things at the end. But you don't need to get involved in like the Galactic War or any of that. I also don't mind going to Tatooine, because I think in modern Star Wars games, we've not actually been to Tatooine that much. I know we've seen a lot of Tatooine in the TV shows recently. I would happily go, because seemingly, you're going to be doing jobs for crime bosses and stuff. It's set between the 5th and 6th films. And one thing I've always liked, a setting I've always liked in Star Wars, perhaps my favorite, is Jabba the Hutt's palace. But Jabba the Hutt's palace, while he is still there and it's full of like all the weird like barflies and like scum boys.
Didn't we see that Han Solo is in carbonite in one of the trailers? So
it's between the films, so he's in carbonite. But I was disappointed when Jabba's palace came back in the Book of Boba Fett and it was just empty and no one was in it, and it was just Boba sat on a chair the whole time. So that's something that really excites me, is that perhaps, fingers crossed, I will be able to wander into that palace, be surrounded by like horrible criminal boys, and speak to Jabba the Hutt and like do some quests for him. That's the only reason as well I would like a Solo 2 movie, because that was what they set up at the end of the first film. So
we might see some of those characters.
Yeah, maybe so. So that's what excites me the most, is just doing jobs for crime lords, visiting planets like Tatooine and many others. Unfortunately, it looks like a couple of the ones from The Last Jedi are in there as well, and The Rise of Skywalker, but never mind. That casino planet, I think, is in there.
Yeah, let's go.
Yeah. But never mind. So, yeah, I'm really excited by that. I think the gameplay looks great. And I think it sort of is from what I can think of, it is the first open world game outside of, if you can call Lego Star Wars an open world game, which it kind of was in a sense. But I can't really think of another.
Is that not what Jedi Survivor is?
I would have said it was, but I suppose it doesn't have side quests and different branching paths
Yeah, I
that
guess
way.
it's open world.
I would have said it was an open world
I
game.
mean, I don't know what the kind of level exploration becomes once I get beyond where I am in the game. Like, can you really just wander across a map in any direction?
Well, on
or-
Kobo, like, obviously you
it's
unlock
big.
stuff, but there's
Right.
quite a big map.
Well, yeah, maybe in that sense it is.
I think maybe
But
just
I
because
guess maybe-
it's loads of different genres
Yeah.
altogether, isn't it? But I would certainly classify.
I
it
would have
as
said that
as one.
too, but yeah.
There we are. We'll
Also,
see.
why are there no men in Star Wars anymore?
Yeah.
I did see that.
Yeah.
What a
What a loser.
loser.
I also am really excited for the Cyberpunk DLC, Phantom Liberty. They've basically overhauled so much of the game. They're changing a big chunk of the way it plays. They're overhauling the skill trees and that kind of thing. So I'm excited. I'm probably going to go back and give Cyberpunk another go when the DLC comes out. I might not play the whole game again. I might just jump straight into the DLC. But
Go find Pan Am.
go find Pan Am. Get upset she can't kiss me. And I think it looks great. I'm excited to play more Cyberpunk, and it feels like from what they've said that the way this is going to change the game, the big update, is what they intended the game to be like on release. It feels like this is kind of like their ultimate version of Cyberpunk in the sense of everything that they've overhauled and changed. And everyone who's given it a go or has had these new changes online seems to really, really rate it and think it adds a whole new dynamic to the game. So I'm excited for that to come out at some point. I can't remember when.
So that's great news, but isn't it also sort of crazy that we're 3 years after when
Yeah,
it came out,
100%.
and now they're at the point where we're like, okay, this is what we wanted to make,
Yeah.
and that will be celebrated because they actually did work very hard to rectify it.
Yeah.
But also, it's like really just what were you trying to get away with
Yeah.
in the first place?
Yeah.
Bonkers. My number one is, of course, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because I need it right now, and I love that game so very much. Crisis Core really reinvigorated my love for that series, if you can count one game as a series of many games, but I suppose you can now. And my love for that series was already pretty flipping high, and getting to experience Crisis Core just sort of gave me another angle to appreciate it from. Part of me hopes that they remake/remaster Dirge of Cerberus, I think is what it's called, and maybe any other weird spin-offs that Final Fantasy VII has had over the years, so we can explore some of the extra story there. But until then, it sounds like we'll hopefully be getting this beginning of next year, but I do not hold out any hope of that. It's probably going to be delayed.
It's only early 2024, so they've got like a few months of leeway either side of that.
Yeah, it could be right at the end of early, or it could be mid or late 2024. Who knows? But that's what I'm most excited about. On the whole, though, SGF week, good fun.
Yeah.
I've enjoyed it.
Yeah, I have.
I've missed having something that looks like E3. And,
Yeah.
and Jeffrey's actually sort of managed to pull it off, even if his own showcase wasn't the best. Wasn't the best. But what do you guys think on the whole?
Yeah.
Closing remarks.
I think overall it was pretty good. I think, as I said earlier, I think one of the less exciting shows for me was the actual Summer Game Fest event. But from what the others brought along, I'm pretty pleased coming out of it. I've definitely got more than 5 games I'm excited about.
Yeah, I feel the same. I feel like for next year, Jeffrey, you should probably look at what everyone else is doing and try and do that a bit more, because every other showcase felt a lot more genuine and exciting than I think the Summer Game Fest show did. So I'd like to see Summer Game Fest try and stray a little bit further away from just pay to be there and we'll talk about your game.
Yeah.
And a bit more like, this is exciting and new and it's something for everyone. So, but I really enjoyed the latter half of the week. I think that everyone did a really good job.
Sony
Congrats,
needs to up
guys.
their game next
They
year.
do 100%.
Sony probably won't be a part of it again
No.
next year. It was just happenstance that it happened to be
But
before.
I mean, whatever they're going to do as their own
Needs to
answer
be
to
better.
it needs to be better.
yeah, absolutely.
Well,
needs
they
to be better.
absolutely did their showcase a few weeks ago to avoid the overlap of Summer Game Fest / E3 week, but got immediately blown out of the water as soon as everything else started because their showcase was so weak. So
Yeah, had a great time, and looking forward to seeing how it evolves next year. Part of me agrees, well, a big part of me agrees with you, Ashton, that Jeffrey needs to perhaps slightly change how he does his own showcase. But another part of me kind of enjoys it because we react to it every year, and it's always a case of, right, what absolute nonsense filler is going to, oh, there's a Porsche Xbox.
Goody.
Huh?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Oh, here's Nick Cage. All
Yeah.
right, that's weird. So I do kind of look forward to that. It's not quite cringe. It's always sort of what money has Jeffrey accepted
Who's
this
paid
year?
Jeff to be
And
at
that's
his
always
show?
quite exciting. Like, what weird honky star rail kind of game are we going to see this time that none of us will ever play or hear about ever again? What did you think of Summer Game Fest as a whole this year? Let us know in the comments below and on various platforms around the internet. Peter is going to tell you about them right meow.
Meow, youtube.com and twitch.tv/Team TripleJump. It's where our videos and live streams happen when we are streaming on Twitch and occasionally on YouTube, but mostly Twitch. We are modded by Lord Brotovich, Trialing Badger, and Mr. Black. If you've got Amazon Prime, part of the bundle that you are paying for already includes a Twitch sub. So if you've not spent that on anyone yet or redeemed it, then redeem it on us, perhaps. Twitter.com and Facebook.com/Team TripleJump for our social media presences for video and live stream announcements, legacy video content, bits of weird news, highlights of the week from Twitch, loads of things put there by Fraser and by us as well. And Ashton is also putting things on TikTok.com/@Team TripleJump. It's TikToks, that's what she's putting on there. Ticks and talks.
What's the latest talk, Ashton?
To be fair, I've not done one this week, but the latest talk was about Minecraft.
About Minecraft. There you go. And finally from me, patreon.com/Team TripleJump. There are loads of different tiers there. Some of them are podcast related rewards. There are others as well that sort of relate to our content. Weirdest games ever, worst games ever, lots of things. So look at the tiers and see if one takes your fancy.
We've got a website. It's triplejU.mp, spells jump. It's very clever. And when you're on Discord, go triplej.mup/Discord. Chat with our wonderful community. When we're over there, we're modded by Jack, Joe, Tori, and Hollow Eyes. And I told you to do something. Let me well do it, all right? If you want to listen to the podcast in its audio form, why not go triplej.mup/podcast. To catch up on any of our live stream VODs, go triplej.mup/VODs. And to to get any of us or James Jenkins do a cameo for you, why not go triplej.mup/cameo, and to buy some sick and cool merch like that hoodie that Peter's got on or that t-shirt, why not go to triplejumpshop.com and make sure you're following @TripleJumpShop on Twitter. My brain is shutting down.
Okay, it's lunchtime, don't worry. Why not follow Peter Austin and Ashton Matthews on Instagram and Twitter @thatPeterAustin and @ScrambledAshton, and myself just on Twitter @confused_dude. We do lists every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, streams every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Thursday being the joint stream.
Plays it.
On Twitch. They're all on Twitch. Worst Games is fortnightly, Friday for patrons of a certain tier, Sunday for everyone else. Weirdest Games is monthly, a week early for patrons. The After Dark podcast is fortnightly on Monday for patrons. The podcast is every Saturday. We do shows all the bloody time. Come check them out. Why not leave a 5-star review on your platform of choice? It helps something to do with Al Gore's rhythms, and it would really help us out. Go on, do it now. It's free. Go on.
Yeah,
Now,
go on.
now, do it now. What's going on, Ashton? What's
It's
happening?
a Weirdest Games Ever week. This week, it comes out on Sunday for everyone. If you're a patron, it's already on the Patreon page, so check that out. It's a pretty good one. Pretty weird one.
Yeah.
Very weird.
Very.
We all
I would
enjoyed
say
it.
we did, every one of us. Also, you can check out all of our live stream VODs from all of the live reactions this week on the VODs channel. If you want to watch, make sure you watch the show side by side with us. So when we're not speaking, it fills the silence because we're listening.
Yeah, we are listening during that.
And your video?
Yeah, the McDonald's 23 Game Boy Color game. That video should be out now. Go and check it out if you want to see this weird curiosity that McDonald's has dropped. A Game Boy Color game in 2023. Are you joking?
What?
Additionally, it's the final week of applying for the freelance writing job. Go and apply now. I believe it closes later in the week. I'll be looking through some of the applications on next Friday. So go apply now if you want a chance to work with us. Thank you very much to everybody who has already applied.
Yes.
Ashton, just enough time to talk about this week's sponsor again, please.
Yes, in honor of Pride Month and the release of Layers of Fear, they have got the rainbow-themed spin-off, Layers of Queer.
Slay.
Great. Yeah.
Brilliant. Thanks so much for listening / watching, everybody. We will see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.